Good evening, everybody. Tonight is a discussion on how to climb Mount Kilimanjaro. My name is Donovan Paschal, and I'll be presenting tonight for 20 to 30 minutes, and then we'll be going over the questions. So for those of you who are just joining, please submit questions into the chat function, and then I will answer them at the end of the evening and go over all those questions. So anything that you're thinking throughout any point of the night, please submit those questions. All right, let's get started. Again, thank you for joining tonight. My name is Donovan Paschal. I'm the owner of Embark, an expedition company based out of Portland, Oregon. I'm actually doing a series of Kilimanjaro presentations tonight, tomorrow night, Saturday morning, and one day next week. Why am I doing so many of these presentations? Because we do have lots of people that are interested in climbing Kilimanjaro. We organize a few hundred per year, so I'd like to share information about climbing Kilimanjaro. Tonight's purely about information you might want to know: what time of year, how much does it cost, what's the map look like. So I'm going to be sharing that information tonight. Throughout the night, if you want to see a map, you want to see a training guide, you want to see a gear list, if you type your email into the chat function, I will email you one of those tomorrow morning. So again, if you want to see a training guide, a gear list, and a map, put your email in the chat function or private message me, and I will send that to you tomorrow. So I always like to start with a picture of Kilimanjaro. This is the top of Kilimanjaro. I was actually here just 3 weeks ago, climbing Kilimanjaro with a group, but these are the glaciers of Kilimanjaro. So I always like to start with a picture of what you can expect on the mountain. So if we jump to the other side of the mountain, we have from Kilimanjaro, from the Kenyan side looking south. So this is Kenya and the Amboseli Game Reserve. Looking south, you can see the northern ice fields, the glaciers of Kilimanjaro, but this is kind of probably the most romantic picture that we have of Kilimanjaro. It's the classic Hakuna Matata that we all remember from The Lion King. So this is again from the north looking south. The first picture you saw was on the glacier itself. Kilimanjaro is actually in Tanzania, it is not in Kenya, but there's a border right here on the northern side. This is now, we're jumping to the other side of the mountain, and this is from Kilimanjaro from the southern side looking north. So this is from Moshi, the town at the base of Kilimanjaro. One of my favorite towns to be. Like I said, I just spent a couple weeks there a few weeks ago, and I love spending time here. But again, this is from Tanzania now looking north. You can see the glaciers that are up there on the southern side. Tonight we're going to be talking about the Lemosho route, which is going to start on the left-hand side of the screen. It's going to come along the southern side of the screen, and it's going to go up the right-hand side of the screen. So this is the Lemosho route discussion. But as you can kind of see here, the lower level of the clouds is about 15,000 feet. So for those of you who are not familiar with the height of Kilimanjaro, it is 19,341 feet. I see that someone says that they lost sound. Can someone just confirm that they can still hear me? All right, so this is another picture of Kilimanjaro up closer on the southern side. So again, for those of you, we're jumping now way up to about 13,000 feet on Kilimanjaro. And again, we're talking about the Lemosho route, which comes on the left-hand side of the mountain, comes around the southern side where we are, and up the right-hand side of the mountain. So again, this is the southern side looking at Kilimanjaro. There's my email address if you want to email me. I can send the training plan, gear, and map. Okay, great. Thank you for those of you who are confirming that you can hear me. Okay, perfect. All right, so a little bit about Embark. I used to live in the foothills of Mount Kilimanjaro in 2002 and 2003. I absolutely loved it. I had an amazing time there. I kind of sometimes wish I was back there, but I live there in the highest village that borders the national park. Prior to COVID, 400 to 500 people per year on Kilimanjaro. We are an organization with a very high success rates, trending in the high 90% success rate. We think we've developed a perfect formula for getting to the top of Kilimanjaro. At the time in 2002, I was the founder of the Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project, which was making sure that the porters get fair wages on the mountain. And again, that project is still running to this day. I'm not involved with it anymore. I do participate in all of our trips are audited, and we abide by the Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project's guidelines, but I'm no longer involved with the board or the day-to-day of it. We do lots of charity treks for large foundations, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, American Cancer Society. I see some of you tonight who've been on some of those trips are here tonight, so thank you for joining. So, about Kilimanjaro. So if there's one thing you want to walk away with tonight, here's one of them. It is a huge mental and physical challenge. So I'm sure some of you have friends that have climbed Kilimanjaro, but it is a huge mental and physical challenge, and you're going to learn about that tonight. There are 4 different routes up Kilimanjaro. 6 to 9 days on average are the routes on Kilimanjaro. Tonight we're going to be talking about 8 days on the Lemosho route. Kilimanjaro is one of the easiest of the 7 summits, right there with Mount Elbrus. It is a mountain that a lot of people climb for the very first time for a big mountain. Again, it's a non-technical mountain. You do not need ropes. You do not need an ice axe. Sometimes we do use yak tracks, which we provide at the summit, but it does not require any technical equipment. You pass through 5 different ecosystems on the way up, so it makes it each day is a little bit more unique than the previous. So that's a little bit about the mountain. The best time of year, I see someone ask that question right off the bat, and again, please submit questions in the chat function throughout the night if you think of anything. So Kilimanjaro has 2 seasons. It's January through March, and mid-June through October. So if you think about it, right now, for example, is not a time to climb Kilimanjaro. It is raining there. In fact, I received reports today that it's just raining, and more rain. So these are the long rains, which usually come in late March, April, May, and the beginning of June. So 3 or 4 months of rain. The other month is the second rains, which is typically November and the beginning of December. So Kilimanjaro can be climbed most of the year, usually about 7 to 8 months. A lot of people in the United States like to come in February and March when it's cold in the United States. Other times, lots of Americans like to come in, the traditional July and October. So that's the best time of year to come. So again, what do you carry on the mountain? Well, this is a perfect example of what you carry on the mountain. You carry a day pack, and in your day pack, you're going to carry your water, which is typically 2 to 3 liters of water, and you're going to carry your rain gear. And anything above and beyond that, maybe some snacks. I see some sunglasses here, a sun hat. But besides that, there are that's what you carry up the mountain. So that means all of your other gear is actually carried up the mountain for you. This is an expedition style trip, so we have porters that carry your gear up the mountain and the setup camp. So you're just hiking each day like this group. Just a reminder for those of you who joined late, if you would like a training plan, a gear list, or and a map, please submit your email into the chat function, and I will send that to you tomorrow. All right, so if there's a second most important thing you need to know for this conversation tonight, it is this one. This is what it looks like. This is how much time you need, okay? So you need in total 11 nights. You need 10 days. So if you look at this, 2 nights in hotels at the beginning of the trip, 7 nights, 8 days up on the mountain, 1 night back in the hotel. So this is what it looks like. Again, you're starting over 7,000 feet. That's a little bit off. It's closer to 7,500 feet. And you're going to climb to 19,341 feet. You're going to descend for 1.5 days back to the same hotel you started, and then you're going to end, okay? So if you need to figure out time to take off to go to work, you need at a minimum probably closer to 12 to 13 days in total, okay? Because in country, you're going to be there for 11 days, 10 nights, okay? Lots of people like to fly out of the States on a Friday, arrive on Saturday, rest on Sunday, start climbing on Monday, come down the following Monday, and head on safari on Tuesday or fly home on Tuesday. So that's how most people do it. That's the most efficient way to take advantage of your weekends if you want to take advantage of your weekends. So don't forget this piece tonight. All right, so how far is it? Well, it is 42-mile hike. So think about the last time you hiked 42 miles. It is still a lot of work regardless of what shape you were in or how many marathons you've run. It's still a very, very difficult hike to do. This is a fully supported expedition style trip, meaning your gear is carried up the mountain for you. So, for example, with a group of 10, you are going to have almost close to 60 other people that are going to be supporting your climb. You're going to have close to 50 porters. You're going to have 5 guides and about 3 cooks, a waiter, give or take. So for a group of 10, almost 60 person support staff. So you're going to ask yourself, why do we need all these people? Well, we have a lot of things to bring up on a trip like this. We bring a bathroom up on the mountain. We bring lots of food up on the mountain, a mess tent, tables, chairs, oxygen. We have people who just carry vegetables. We have people who just carry food for the porters. So there's a lot that goes into this style of adventure. So here's your team. A group of 10 or so. You're basically moving a small army of people up the mountain as you make your way up there to the summit. This is on the last day, but as you can see, this is a happy group. They're all excited to go home and be done with this adventure. All right, so the second hardest question is, what is the weather like? Okay, so the weather is like a mountain, and a mountain can bring you anything. I've been up on a mountain in August and got awful rain and snow. So a mountain is a little bit of everything. Here is a group up at Lava Tower, which is an acclimatization hike at 15,000 feet. They are not sleeping here. They're just hiking up here. And as you can see, they are getting wet, very, very, very wet, right? But as we move on, and they're descending back down, obviously there's lots of runoff from the rain, etc. We see the guy with the umbrella there. That's pretty funny. You see that from time to time up there. But as you go up the mountain and down the mountain, the weather changes all the time. So here could be the group maybe a day, a few hours later, or actually a few hours even. Actually, this is the next day. But as you can see, the weather varies and changes dramatically each day depending upon where you are. So up on Kilimanjaro, you're adding lots of layers and you're taking off layers all throughout the day. For those of you who are joining late, if you submit your email into the chat function, I'll send you a map and a training guide and a gear guide tomorrow. If you have any questions, I've only seen a couple questions, so if you guys could submit 1 or 2, I've seen a couple, I will answer them at the end. All right, so next piece. Safety on Kilimanjaro. How do you make it safely up the mountain? Well, number 1, you need to go slow. So you'll hear on Kilimanjaro, pole pole. So pole pole means slow, slow. And the trick to Kilimanjaro is to go slow up the mountain. You'll find other companies that do shorter trips up the mountain, and people are trying to go up it fast because the permits to climb Kilimanjaro is expensive. Climbing Kilimanjaro is generally expensive. So people try to do it fast. The only safe way to do it is to go slow, and that's an 8-day trip, in my professional opinion. I've been doing this a long time. You need to work and make sure you have daily medical checks, interviews each day. How are you feeling? Do you have nausea? Do you have a headache? How long have you had that headache for? When are you urinating? And all those things. So making sure that you're doing daily medical checks up on the mountain, that the company that you're working with has a comprehensive medical kit and that they are carrying oxygen. In the past, People have carried Gamo bags. We've stopped carrying Gamo bags, but we do bring oxygen canisters up there. So these are the keys to making it up Kilimanjaro. Again, this is going slow and making sure you're taking care of yourself. So if there's a third most important thing tonight, this might be the next one, and this is what a bird's eye view of the map kind of looks like. So in this scenario, here, when you're going up the mountain from the start to the beginning. So your first day from the gate to the start, Mti Mkubwa camp, right? The big tree camp, that's day 1. Your day 2 is Mti Mkubwa to Shira 1. Day 3 to Shira 2, and so on, to Barranco, to Karanga, right? And then Karanga to Barafu. And then as you can see, you go up one way, but you come down the right-hand side of the screen. So if you kind of look at this, this is kind of an overview of the elevations and the distances that you'll need to go on Kilimanjaro. A couple things to point out. Barafu camp, the high camp, over 15,000 feet. You're gonna climb from 15,000 feet up to 19,000 feet, right? In the middle of the night, right? And then you're gonna descend all the way down to Mweka camp. So you're gonna summit Kilimanjaro and try to arrive at the top when the sun rises over Africa. And that hike in the middle of the night is going to take you probably 7 to 8 hours. And the descent all the way down to Mweka is going to take you probably the same amount of time. So again, you're going to go about 4,000 feet up and about 10,000 feet down. So it's a huge mental and physical challenge, as I stated at the beginning of the conversation tonight. So again, excuse me, this is what a bird's eye view looks like of the route going up the mountain. Okay, so what is camp like? Well, this is what a camp is like right here. As you can see, this camp is above the clouds. So sometimes you're below the clouds and it tends to be raining outside. But as you can see here, up here, you're above the clouds. You can see the tent, the Mountain Hardwear Trango tents. We put 2 people in each one of those tents. You can see on the far right-hand side of the screen, you can see a bathroom. That's over there on the far right-hand side of the screen. That's a bathroom. Over there in the middle, you can see like a standard long traditional tent. That is the mess tent. So inside that, I'll show you here a picture in a minute. You can see where you would sit for your breakfast or your dinner. But this is kind of what a camp looks like. For those of you, again, I think I just said this a minute ago, if you email me at donovan@embarkexplorationco.com, I can send you a training plan, gear, and map. Sorry to be redundant. I just have to say it a few times here. Again, another view of camp. As you can see, kind of a different view. As you can see, there's a couple different groups here. One thing I can tell you, and I was just on Kilimanjaro a few weeks ago, it's a really nice time to be there. It was probably at maybe 20% capacity, if not less. I climbed with a group just a couple weeks ago. All of us made it to the summit, but it's nice to be up on Kilimanjaro when it's not busy anymore. As you can see, kind of one of the days, a couple of the days, specifically at Karanga camp and specifically at Barafu camp, you're going to have time to hang out. There's lots of acclimatization that's happening before you go to the top, so your body is adjusting to the altitude. So you can see you're kind of hanging out here, mess tent, hanging around during the day, and looking about what you're going to do the following day. A little bit closer picture here at nighttime with the tents kind of glowing. And then another great shot here with a bunch of glowing camps. This is actually quite a few days before, but as you can see, the light of the tents, I wanted to put this one in. All right, so inside the mess tent, you can see the group here. They're sitting there at a table. They're probably getting ready for breakfast and prepping for their day on the mountain. So standard mess tent. As you can see, like I said, we bring tables and chairs, and they're prepping probably before their morning hike. All right, so how much weight can you bring up the mountain? So you get to bring up to 33 pounds of weight. So that means in your duffel bag, you can bring 33 pounds of weight. That doesn't count, your boots that you have on. That doesn't count your day pack. That doesn't count your gear that you have for safari. That's left back at the hotel, but you can bring 33 pounds. If you look through our gear list, which we'll provide for you to use to those of you who've submitted your email, you can see what you need. And basically, with the exception of underwear and socks, you need about 2 things of everything. So, a pair of normal pants and a pair of insulated pants, a couple trekking shirts, a fleece, a shell, a warm coat, a sun hat, a warm hat, a balaclava, standard glove inserts, and then mittens that go over those inserts. Besides that, some camp shoes. So anyway, those are all things that you will need to bring. So again, 33 pounds of weight is what you can bring. What is the hardest part of climbing Kilimanjaro? Well, the hardest part is the summit night. Remember, you're going to be hiking over 4,000 feet in the middle of the night. It's going to be cold. If it's windy, like it was on my trip, and I'm going to show you a video here in a minute, it can be cold. So this is the hardest part. But let's take a look at this group. So here's somebody headed up the mountain. As you can see, she has on, her balaclava. She has all of her warm gear on, kind of basically loaded up in the middle of the night with her light on. Here's another gentleman who's again got, their specialized coats and their rain pants, but they're all completely bundled up in the middle of the night because the coldest part in the middle of the night, all those clears if there's any wind out there at night. But it tends to be cold, but once the sun comes up, you tend to warm up really, really fast. So, as I mentioned, here's that sun that's kind of coming up. What I want you to pay attention to is the ground here in this picture. Again, this is a very dry time of climbing Kilimanjaro, meaning near the summit. There's basically no snow. When I was on Kilimanjaro just a few weeks ago, this is what it was like until we got to Stella Point. Oh, our top fan, Ryan Tanska, is on here tonight. So if you have any questions, you can submit any question, and I'm sure Ryan can answer it for you. Thanks for joining, Ryan. Moving on. Again, this guy wasn't doing too well near the top. It gets really, really hard. We had a number of people on the trip a few weeks ago that felt like this. But as you can see, once the sun comes up and you're so close and you're ready to give up, you can basically have faith that you're gonna make it to the top. So again, 7 hours up and 7 hours down is generally what you do on your biggest night on Kilimanjaro. So here's a picture of the summit, and again, note the summit up here. There's no snow on the summit. I'm going to show you a video here in a minute of myself up at the summit, and you can see the difference here. Excuse me. So again, the summit, it's on a ledge, and you can see the northern glaciers there in the background. Now here's another group that is up there, and obviously completely different weather system. But as you can see, this is snow. This is a lot more snow than usual, but I wanted you to see that it varies even during those good times of year. This was our first group after COVID started in last October that flew from Seattle and Texas, went up the Western Breach and made it up there. Again, regarding COVID, we've had 5 groups up there, more than 30 people, and everyone has flown from the United States, went there, climbed, and returned back safe and sound. So we've had no problems with that. And plus, a lot of the airlines are only at 20% capacity. And hiking generally is socially distanced. All right, so up at the summit, So here's a summit shot from the sign looking back to where the people are kind of coming from. Obviously it's busy, but everyone's here watching the sun rise over Africa. Here's another shot from there, like nearby, and you can see the glacier, the fabled glaciers of Kilimanjaro. But again, another shot with quite a few less people up there. If you were to go to Kilimanjaro in the next year or so, I would suspect that most of your experience would be more like this, given that it's relatively quiet over there right now. Embark has maybe 7 to 9 groups that are planned for this summer. If you're interested, there's some dates on the last slide here. And again, so here are the glaciers of Kilimanjaro. You can walk over to them if the weather is okay with one of the guides. Certain glaciers, not all of the glaciers you can go to. It depends upon if you come up the Western Breach or not. And here's another picture of one of the many glaciers that are up there. And again, thank you for everyone submitting the questions. I'm going to address them here at the end. I'm going to try real quick here to play a quick video view for everyone from the summit. I might have some audio issues, but I'm going to try if you could all just stand by. Well, I think I'm going to be having audio issues today. As you can see here, and I'll just talk you through it, this is the summit of Kilimanjaro up there when I was up there just a few weeks ago. But you can get a general idea. As you can see, it was pretty windy up there as well. But you can get an overall idea. We were up there. Our group was only up there for a very short time because it was incredibly cold up on Kilimanjaro at the time. Apologize for the audio issues. It's spinning here up in the background. So anyways, I'll just continue on with the presentation. All right, so here's another kind of cool slide. You generally won't see this slide up on the mountain, but you can get another visual of what you can expect up on the mountain. So again, if you're looking across and you see the ledge across from everyone or across the screen, that's the top of Kilimanjaro on the far side of the mountain. So that's where the summit is. So if you look on the left-hand side, you kind of come up over on this left-hand side of the screen, and then you walk the ridge around over to the far side, which is the highest point in Africa. You can see the ash pit. For those of you who'd come up the Western Breach, which is a little bit more interesting for more mountaineering types, if you were to come up the Western Breach, you'd come into the crater, and then you would go up that snow field that goes up that ledge on the far right-hand side. So again, this top of Kilimanjaro, again, for 99% of the people, you'd come up the left-hand side and walk the ridge to that far side. So again, during COVID, yes, we did have a group. Our porters wear masks when they're in buses and when they're close to each other. Clients ask just to get a picture with them here. Again, it's all mostly outside, and you're not inside any area with any of the porters. We do COVID test all of our guides as well prior to, and guides do spend times inside the mess tent with the clients. If there's another picture, and this is actually one of the maps that you can get if you send me your email address, another view, excuse me, of the route going up the mountain, and you can see the different camps, the elevations, the summit, and kind of how you go up the mountain. So another graphic like the earlier one that I showed you, but this is one of the maps you can share with people if you decide you want to climb Kilimanjaro or trying to convince somebody. Oops. All right, so pricing. Everyone wants to know how much does it cost. Pricing depends upon the following factors: ratio of guides and porters, like per person, right? Fair wages, are they part of the Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project? Are hotels, transfers included, quality of the guide? So all those factors kind of go into play. A lot of it's ratio and gear as well. On average, you're looking at 3,000 to 6,500 depending upon the company. Embark charges 3,500. Please note that it is a $1,200 permit that we pay for you to go up the mountain. My example, you can look at someone like Thompson, Safaris, or REI. They're all like $6,000. Again, we're 3,500. We're pretty middle of the road, but we're a very quality operator. Again, Embark includes 3 nights in hotels, 2-to-1 ratio of guides, fair wages to all the porters, all transfers, 4-star hotels. And again, the one thing that I want to say is the ratio of guides and porters per person are important. Some people need to go down the mountain early. They would go down with a guide, and we need backup guides up there as well. So again, you're typically going to have about a 2-to-1 ratio with guides. All right, so remember this, and then I'm going to go through the questions here. Key things: take your time. The longer on the mountain, the higher success rate. So if someone's trying to sell you a 7-day trip or a 6-day trip, generally they're just trying to get you up the mountain. They don't care if you summit. I care if you summit. So 8 days, you should always do 8-day trips, even 9 days. That's the key. That's really the key. Number 2, pay fair wages, part of the Kilimanjaro Porters Assistance Project. There's about 120 Kilimanjaro climb companies, of which maybe 30% are part of that project. Feeding your porter, making sure they're properly clothed, making sure they're paid a fair wage. If you see cheap Kilimanjaro prices, I can guarantee you they're not part of that project, most likely. Plan at least a year in advance. I mean, maybe it could be 7 to 9 months, but you can plan at least a year in advance. You could probably get some friends to come with you, and you can get some really good quality dates. Probably the biggest piece of important thing, last thing tonight, is you need to train for a minimum of 3 months to prepare. It's better 4 to 6 months. It's still very, very hard. I climbed 5 mountains in January just to prep. These were just 1-day mountains, 5,000 feet, just to prep for Kilimanjaro. So Kilimanjaro, it's still over 40 miles. It's still sleeping outside for 7 nights. It's still almost 12,000 feet of elevation gain. It is hard. It will kick your ass. So please take it seriously and train for at least 4 months, if not more. Invite friends and family. Kilimanjaro can be done by anyone in reasonable shape. I would say a lot of our clients are in their 60s on a lot of these trips. So train, as Ryan Tanska just said before. So final thing, if you are looking to do anything this summer, we have a couple spaces open for July, but it's mostly full. June's full. Some trips sprinkled in there. If you're looking for something later, just communicate with me. Hey, Donovan, next February we're thinking about going. Next March, next year we're thinking about going. We can do a trip on any day, always. The question is do you want a trip for you and your friends, or do you want to join anybody else? So it really kind of comes down to that, but the longer you communicate, most people don't plan this in 4 or 5 months. So if you think you want to do this in July and you think you have a bunch of friends that want to go with you, you're probably wrong. People need to get 2 weeks off of work. That's expensive. They have to save the money for it. They probably want to go on a safari, which we can organize as well. So it's all those things kind of come into play. So think about that. And reach out to us if you even want to start talking about it. If you want to just call up and ask us questions about climbing Kilimanjaro, you're more than happy to, or you're more than willing to. Again, so my name is Donovan. It's at embarkexplorationco.com. If you send me your email, I'll send you a training plan, gear, and map. I'm going to go through these questions real quick. This is usually some lively debate in here. How many days total time should one take off from work to account for travel, climbing, and return home? Yeah, it's a good question. You're looking at probably close to 2 weeks. So again, if you take advantage of the weekends, you can, maybe make it 13 or 12 days depending upon your flights. Thank you for that question, Amy. Next question, can you commentate a vegan diet? 100%. In fact, our lead site director is a vegan, and we've been doing vegan in Kilimanjaro probably longer than anybody else. So yeah, no problem there. Josh, do you recommend training with an altitude tent, or do I have to have prior experience above 10,000 feet? There is nothing. You do not have to have prior experience. Most people can't get the prior experience. We have a lot of people in LA and New York and Florida. You do not need an altitude tent. You do not need, the only thing you need, Josh, is you need to take your time going up the mountain and drink lots of water. So don't settle for a 6 or 7 day trip. Do 8 days. You have half the oxygen that you have at sea level. So you have to go slow. That's the key to all of this. Do you recommend training at Evolution Altitude Room? I mean, if you can, but you don't need to, Kirsten. Have you taken people over 60? Yes. The trip I was on just a couple weeks ago, we had a gentleman who was 66. I think the oldest person we ever had was like 81, but generally only a handful in their 70s, lots of people in their 60s usually. Krista Bush, equipment. What do you recommend to staying warm? Like what kind of sleeping pad bag to bring? How cold does it get in October? Sleeping bag can be any kind of sleeping pad that you want. Obviously, you'd want to test it out in advance. A bag, you would probably bring a 0 degree bag if you generally sleep cold. I generally sleep warm, but I found myself using a 0 degree bag on the trip a few weeks ago. So a 0 degree bag would be the best that you can get. How cold does it get? Again, that's that hard question that I can't always answer. I can tell you that it will be below freezing at nighttime while you are sleeping, but if you have that 0 degree bag, you're fine. Willa, if you're a solo traveler, are you sharing a tent with someone you don't know? No, it's up to you. You can share a tent. We preferred if you could, because each tent weighs about 11 pounds. And so for us to carry another 11-pound tent is more weight, but you can have your own tent if you wanted to. Is it recommended to take medicine preventively for altitude or Diamox? Yes, most U.S. citizens tend to take Diamox. The guides walk you through typically when to take that. So yes, most people bring Diamox. It depends upon if you're going to take it before you go up the mountain, or if you are going to take it when you get altitude sickness. Can we leave extra items back at the hotel? You bet, no problem. Everyone seems to be wearing an orange jacket. Were these pics? Yes, this group had matching jackets. This was just like this was a foundation that was raising money for cancer. So yes, we don't have matching jackets up on Kilimanjaro. So they just happen to be. How many people summit on average from a small group? So I would say most people summit. I'd say maybe like 1 in 30 come down. So maybe every 4 or 5 groups come down. But we're getting most of the people to the summit these days because we're taking our time, because we're hydrating, because we're going slow. That's the key. Slow hydration, slow. So how many permits are issued? Kilimanjaro is open, so there's no like set number of permits. But again, as Embark pays for those permits are $1,200 per person that we pay to the Tanzanian government. Can you send us the link in the video, the Vimeo video? You bet. I apologize for that. I am going to be doing this presentation tomorrow, and I can actually even see if I could do it now. I did have a great section here. It's just delayed. All right, no, I can send those Vimeo links tomorrow when I reply to all of you as well. Can you talk about tipping? Yes. Oh wait, my team is located in the UK and California. Is that an issue, or can you accommodate that? Yes, Dan, no problem. Send me your email. I'm more than happy to accommodate people from the UK. I've done groups from UK and Australia as well. Willa, can you talk about tipping of the porters and guides? How much extra should we plan for that? Yeah, that's a really good question, a really important question. There's a lot of people that carry your stuff up the mountain. Tips here compared to other parts of the world tend to be a little bit more expensive. I would say on average, people bring about $500 to $600 for tipping, and that would be distributed between the porters and the guides. So if you had a group of 10 people, you'd probably have $5,000 to $6,000 that you would divide up between those 60 some odd people. So we have recommendations that we can do, that we have for that. if you end up doing a trip with us, you can see that, or you can reach out to me and I can share it with you on your own. Sarah, what would you suggest for training? How long do you need to be trained beforehand? I think I mentioned that toward the end. It's about 3 to 4 months. Can you rent a bag with your company? Yes, we can rent sleeping bags. Ryan said, for Diamox, I took altitude medicine every day as I prescribed. I didn't wait for the problem, but some people had night terrors while on it. Thanks, Ryan. Good to know. What's the best way to train? There's lots of different ways to train. People tend to do cardio-centric things, doing hiking and walking and running and biking and things like that, both in the gym and outside the gym. So we just had a new podcast called Type 2 Fun, and there is a great section on how to train for a Kilimanjaro trip, both physically and mentally. So check out Type 2 Fun podcast on how to train, and that one would be great. Once we're signed up, do you have Facebook groups for particular groups at a time? I don't, Krista. Some groups do that. They create one and they all chat in there. I like the idea. If you had a group, I think it's a great to do a group and to have a Facebook group and to put details in there. So no, but I could help you facilitate one if you wanted to. For tipping, will it be in local currency or U.S. currency? U.S. currency is fine. It doesn't matter. So we ran through it there. 50 minutes or 40 minutes, I guess, or so. So listen, I want to thank everyone again tonight for joining me. I'm actually doing this exact same one tomorrow night. So if you want to watch it again, Ryan, if you want to join and help me out, I'd appreciate it. But overall, again, my name is Donovan Paschal. I've been doing Kilimanjaro trips for almost 2 decades. We run a really good thing. Check out Embark Exploration Co. Reach out to me a year in advance, 6 months, 8, 9 months, it doesn't matter. Bring your friends, put your parents on a Zoom. We can all talk about it. But again, we do a very quality adventure on Kilimanjaro, and I'd love to work with you. One last question. Is the price you posted for one person, or does it decrease with larger groups? The price I posted is typically for starting about 4 to 5 people. A one-person trip, you're still bringing almost 12 porters up the mountain. So again, $3,500 is assuming you have around 4 to 5 people. So anyway, again, thanks everyone. I appreciate it. I hope to see you in the future. Reach out for Embark. I hope you learned something tonight. If you want to see those videos, I'm going to try to get them set up again tomorrow. I do have a couple of them that I wasn't able to show. But again, nice to meet you guys all. Have a good night.